Hello everybody, today we have a short video about vibration and macro photography. You do not want to miss this. So this video is going to be short but important, and it contains some information that you need to have, but it also contains the secret to a long and happy life, a DIY invention of mine that you're going to want to build. So you need to gather all the pieces that you're going to need. I would have made a shopping list for you, but you don't really need a shopping list. If you live in the Western world, or even if you live in a yurt, you probably have the things that you're going to need to make this on hand, possibly in your pockets. You want the list? Okay. A bit of metal or wood or plastic or something flat. Doesn't even have to be flat. Half of it needs to be flat. A pin or a piece of wire or a stout bristle, just something like that. And a blob of something. A piece of rubber, a piece of plastic, a piece of metal, a piece of stone. It doesn't matter. That's the three things you need. Do you have that? A flat thing, a skinny thing, and a blob? You're good to go. So this video is to cover a subject we've touched on before. That is the subject of vibration and how vibration can really negatively impact the quality of our photographs, and sometimes without us knowing it. One of the insidious things about vibration is we don't always know when that's the problem. Even more confusing, there are times when there is obvious visible vibration in our rig. We can see it through the camera, yet it's having no effect on the quality of our images. In other words, there are times that vibration is hard to identify but ruining our pictures, and other times when it's obvious that it's vibrating, but it's not doing anything to our pictures. So how do we know when vibration is bad, and what are we going to do about it when we identify it? Well, that's what this video is about. I'm going to go through all of those questions, but we're going to start out with probably the most important part of this is an understanding of what vibration is and how it impacts our photographs. We can think about vibration, for the sake of this discussion, as a situation when an object, we're going to say it's an alligator clip for the sake of this argument, is moving from its rest position to different positions in a cyclic manner, okay? That's obviously a terrible oversimplification, but it will work for what I'm trying to explain. So when a thing vibrates, it's doing it either because it's been acted on and it has elastic properties, like you knock it and it bends and then rebounds and then bends and rebounds, getting shorter and shorter. That's a vibration. Then there are other vibrations that happen when there is a repeated stimulation from the environment. For example, an electric motor, a three-phase electric motor in your washing machine that is producing a vibration that is affecting all of the surfaces in your house. And then you have something like that. I should have picked something that doesn't make so much dang noise, but there you go. I need this because it's gonna show you something important in a minute. So anytime you have this cyclical departure of a structure from where it belongs to some other place, we're going to call that vibration. Now, there are two ways that can ruin a photograph. The first is if you're shooting with natural light or continuous light, and you take a picture and by necessity your shutter speed is long enough to let light in. So say you're shooting at a 30th of a second. A 30th of a second while an object is moving and creaking like that is a lot of movement. And at the beginning of your shutter release, it may be here. At the end, it may be here. So what you're actually going to capture for that frame is a blur, a wedge-shaped blur in this case. So that's a pretty obvious way in which vibration is going to ruin the photograph, because If every other shot in the stack looks like that, you're going to not end up with a good photograph. That's pretty obvious. What though if you shoot in a dark room, you use a couple of speed lights at their lowest possible setting? So you're shooting with an effective shutter speed of about 1/20,000th of a second. That's the total amount of time that light is available to the sensor, is 1/20,000th of a second. You can freeze almost anything in that amount of time. So you shouldn't have a problem with vibration, right? That's a mistake that is commonly made. But let me explain how that is wrong. Now, if you're at 1:1, it is probably true. At 1:1, you probably have enough depth of field that all but the most severe vibration is always going to be in focus. So this is a problem that is related to the amount of magnification. But let's go to the other end of the spectrum. Let's say you're shooting at 20 times magnification and your setup has a depth of field of, say, 2 microns. 2 microns. That's not much. Let's say then that your thing that you're photographing is vibrating at an amplitude that displaces it by, say, 5 microns, 6 microns. The math will be easier. So it's moving 6 microns side to side. So the camera may take a picture of it here or anywhere in between. In that 20,000th of a second, it will be click, and that will be it frozen in that position. But if every frame has it in a slightly different position, what's that going to look like? Well, thanks to programs like Xerine Stacker, which have very sophisticated alignment algorithms in them, it probably won't make a huge difference. In other words, you'll probably still get a decent stack out of it, even though it's vibrating. What though if this thing is also vibrating in this plane, as it will be? Things don't vibrate just in one plane. They tend to vibrate in multiple planes and change plane as they vibrate. Remember, they're responding to something that's happening in the environment. They're seldom stable. So if it's vibrating like this with a period of, I'm sorry, that noise is just absolutely driving me batty. So it's now vibrating like this, and it's vibrating 6 microns. And we have a depth of field of 2 microns, meaning that for some percentage of the shots, this structure, whatever it is we're looking at, is going to be out of focus. Now, there's no alignment program in the world that is going to make an out of focus frame stackable. So what's going to happen is you're going to be stacking in focus images with some indeterminate number of out of focus images every time your camera snaps a picture while the vibration is carried out of the focal plane. That you can't get around, and it will lead to soft pictures. In the extreme, it will lead to a very blurry picture where obviously there's the thing's spending more time out of focus than in. But the point is, there is a limit to how much vibration that a system can experience before the picture suffers. But how in the world are we to know what those conditions are? What can we do to evaluate our environment and say, that's too much vibration. I need to move my rig. I need to drop its center of gravity. I need to put braces on my table legs. I need to suspend my platform from the ceiling, or I need to use a pile driver and put a concrete pillar in the middle of my dining room so that the table will be stable. People have done all of these things, believe me, to get a stable platform. But how do you know that you need to do that? Well, that's kind of what got this video started. I had this question years ago and didn't know what I was going to do about it. So I came up with this gadget. This gadget is just what it looks like. It's a piece of metal with a pin going through it. It's secured in place with some Bondic or some acrylic, or what do I use for that? Epoxy. And on the top of it is a chunk of pencil eraser that weighs about 1 gram. Now, this thing vibrates, and it vibrates visibly when you put it in a situation where there's a vibrating stimulus. So if there's anything jiggling around in the room and I pull one of these things out and put it on my specimen stand, it'll oscillate and I'll see it through the camera. And if I take a picture, well, we'll get to what happens if I take a picture in a minute. So I made a bunch of these things, and I discovered that the source of vibration doesn't make that much difference. Vibration is vibration. Whether it's coming from a single phase electric motor in the fridge or a big electric motor out in the garage or whatever it might be, even if it's a truck going by on the road, it doesn't seem to make a whole lot of difference qualitatively in the vibration. And it will either set my specimen to vibrating or it won't. The question I had was, does it matter? What kind of vibrations do I need to pay attention to and which ones can I ignore? So the way I saw it, there were 2 ways I could get a handle on this. One was to understand the physics of vibration, and that was not going to happen. It's very complicated and way over my head. So what I decided to do was make a whole series of these little vibration things and test them at different magnifications. And that's exactly what I did. I set my rig up. I put a vibration source, which what I used was my dehumidifier because it vibrates worse than anything I've ever owned. The whole thing shakes. And I would put that next to my platform and turn it on. And then I would put the sensor, the thing that I made, on the XYZ table, and I would focus the camera on it. And in every case, I would see it vibrating. But here's what I did. I would change the sensitivity of this vibration sensor by moving the weight down the pin. The further down the pin you move it, the less sensitive it gets and the less likely it is to vibrate, even with a heavy vibration source. But as your magnification increases, you'll be able to see the vibrations more clearly. So what I had to do was move the weight down the pin, let the thing stabilize, and then look at it through the camera and take a picture. Eventually, the pin would stop vibrating when the weight was low enough, because it got low enough, it took too much force to start the vibration. My vibration source couldn't do it. And at that point, I would lift the weight back up just about 1 millimeter, and I would call that the threshold. Then I would take a photograph of the vibrating pin. In fact, I took dozens of them, hundreds of them. And if I could see vibration either in a single image or if the object was moving in and out of focus in any consecutive images, then I would say that if this sensor vibrates at 20x, I know that the vibration that is visible is significant and it will damage my photographs. But what happened was very interesting. Sometimes I would see my subject vibrating through the camera, and I would go get my sensor thing and I would put it on the XYZ table and it wouldn't budge. The 20x sensor would not shake. Yet I was looking at the specimen shaking. Well, as it happened, if I photographed the specimen like that, it wouldn't show any blur. In other words, that was vibration that was not affecting the sensor. So that is the benefit of this thing. And I still use them, less than I used to, but they're still handy and they're still fun to pull out every now and again. If I see vibration and I really need this shot and I want to see whether or not I'm wasting my time, I'll pull out the 5x or the 10x weighted sensor and I'll put it on the stage. And I'll believe what it says, because if it doesn't matter what the subject is doing, it doesn't matter if my bee is buzzing away on the end of the pin. If the sensor doesn't move, I know that I can shoot that bee and I won't see any blur. In other words, I'll know that the vibration is not going to impact the end result of the photograph. It's pretty amazing, but it works. If you want to try this, that's it. I mean, that's all you got to do. There's nothing fancy to this. This is very much trial and error, and it's setting up these devices. You can make them any way you want. Anything that you can build that will vibrate visibly is all you need to do, and then tune it to the particular magnification you're using. The tuning to the magnification just means you're trying to find the cutoff. You're trying to find the point at the least vibration that spoils the photograph, so that you know if you're seeing that amount of vibration on the pin, there's no point taking the photograph. Not until you have fixed the vibration. If you have a lot of vibration that's not affecting your photographs, leave it alone. If it's not affecting your photographs, what do you care? But if it is, fix it. And that's the other benefit of having this way of testing vibration. A lot of the fixes for vibration, a lot of the things you have to do are the things I referred to earlier. They can get really expensive. They can involve making changes to the structure of your house, to pouring concrete, to suspending cables and ropes. There's all kinds of things people do to get rid of vibration. But would you not like to know, before you drill a hole in your spouse's dining room floor, that you really need to? I certainly did. I wanted to know if it was worth me going to all of this trouble to stop vibration. I needed to know, was the vibration actually causing a problem? Sometimes it was, sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes you have to just move your rig to another part of the house, or put it on a concrete floor, or put braces on the legs. There's always something you can do. Lower the center of gravity. Stop using long, unsupported extensions of rail. All of these things make vibrations worse, and sometimes just fixing one of them fixes the whole problem. But you need to know whether or not there's a problem. Otherwise, you'll be chasing vibrations till the end of time. It doesn't matter how much you do to create a vibration-free environment. You're still going to get them from time to time. I know people who've spent thousands of dollars on optical tables that are designed not to vibrate, who have vibration issues. Don't go out and buy a new monitor just because you think my shirt kept changing color during this video, because it actually did. I mean, it didn't change color, it changed shirt. It's a long story. If you're into macro photography and you would like more of this type of thing, in fact, a lot more of this type of thing, then come over to my Patreon channel. The Patreon supporters over there get loads of macro, too much macro. This video was part of a 7-part series that I did for the people that support me, and I'm very grateful to them for doing that, and I invite you to join their number. You will certainly be welcome. See you over there. Until then, take care, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video.